Well, good morning and welcome to day 5 of our Bible study series through Holy Week. If you haven't seen the other videos, they are still up on YouTube, so you can go back and watch the rest of the week so far. But today we come to Good Friday, and although the name says Good Friday and we know what that means now, to them it did not seem like a Good Friday. Our reading today comes from Matthew chapter 27, verses 32 to 61, and it says this. As they were going out, they met a man from Cyrene named Simon, and they forced him to carry the cross. They came to a place called Golgotha, which means the place of the skull. There they offered Jesus wine to drink, mixed with gall, but after tasting it, he refused to drink it. When they had crucified him, they divided up his clothes by casting lots, and sitting down, they kept watch over him there. Above his head, they placed a written charge against him. This is Jesus, the King of the Jews. The two rebels were crucified with him, one on his right and one on his left. Those who passed by hurled insults at him, shaking their heads and saying, "You who are going to destroy the temple and build it in 3 days, save yourself! Come down from the cross if you are the Son of God." And in the same way, the chief priests and the teachers of the law and the elders mocked him. "He saved others," they said, "but he can't save himself. He's the King of Israel. Let him come down now from the cross and we will believe in him. He trusts in God. Let God rescue him now if he wants him, for he said, 'I am the Son of God.'" In the same way, the rebels who were crucified with him also heaped insults on him. From noon until 3 in the afternoon, darkness came over the land. About 3 in the afternoon, Jesus cried out in a loud voice, "Eloi, Eloi, lama sabachthani," which means, my God, why have you forsaken me?" When some of those standing there heard this, they said, "He's calling Elijah." Immediately, one of them ran and got a sponge. He filled it with wine vinegar, put it on a staff, and offered it to Jesus to drink. The rest said, "Now leave him alone. Let's see if Elijah comes to save him." And when Jesus had cried out again in a loud voice, he gave up his spirit. At that moment, the curtain of the temple was torn in two from top to bottom. The earth shook, the rocks split, and the tombs broke open. The bodies of many holy people who had died were raised to life. They came out of the tombs after Jesus' resurrection and went into the holy city and appeared to many people. When the centurion and those with him who were guarding Jesus saw the earthquake and heard all that had happened, they were terrified and exclaimed, "Surely he was the Son of God." Many women were there, watching from a distance. They had followed Jesus from Galilee to care for his needs. Among them were Mary Magdalene, Mary the mother of James and Joseph, and the mother of Zebedee's sons. As evening approached, there came a rich man from Arimathea named Joseph, who had himself become a disciple of Jesus. Going to Pilate, he asked for Jesus' body, and Pilate ordered that it be given to him. Joseph took the body, wrapped it in a clean linen cloth, and placed it in his own new tomb that he had cut out of the rock. He rolled a big stone in front of the entrance and went away. Mary Magdalene and the other Mary were sitting there opposite the tomb. Now I'm going to put some discussion questions up on the screen, and once again feel free to pause the video, discuss them with those around you, or think of the answers on your own, and I'll come back in a minute and I'll make some reflection points on what we've just heard. I wonder what your answers to those questions were, and I wonder what you think it might have been like to be in that crowd that day. But the criminals that were crucified next to him, why did they hurl insults at him? Well, it showed that up until the moment he died, Jesus was misunderstood by everybody on earth. Nobody seemed to know why he'd come to earth. Nobody had any idea who he was. They hurled insults at him. They hated him. And they made it public by saying these cruel things, even as he was on the cross, even as he was dying, right up until his death. He was hated and he was misunderstood. And why do people think he was calling out to Elijah? Well, Elijah was a prophet from the Old Testament. He was a true man of God. And in Jesus' time, people had begun to associate Elijah with Jesus. They'd even thought that he might have been the forerunner to Jesus. Some people thought that Jesus was Elijah reincarnate. So people thought he might be calling out to this forerunner to help him, to save him. But that's not who he was calling out to. He was calling out to God the Father, asking him for help. And I wonder how it felt to be in the crowd. Sad, feelings of being lost, confused, maybe disbelief. Maybe for the disciples who'd been with him for years, seeing the miracles that he'd done, maybe they had just this immense sense of disbelief. How could it have happened to Jesus? He could heal the sick, he could raise the dead, but how come he can't come down from the cross? How come he can't save himself? I don't understand. Maybe that's how they would have felt. But we don't know. All we know is that this day is the day that Jesus died, the day that he left the earth as we know it. And it was a sad day for those around. But we call it Good Friday because we know what happens on Sunday. But we're not there yet in our story. But we will get there soon. Let's pray. Lord, I thank you for Good Friday. Thank you that even though it was a truly sad day for those there, that for us now we know it was good. We thank you that Jesus followed through with your plans. And we pray that we would all remember what Jesus gave up for us. Remember the strength that it took. Remember the courage that it took. And remember that he died for us. That is truly special. Amen. Well, thank you for joining me again today, and I'll see you again tomorrow on Saturday for the next day in our Bible study series.